community with both Shane and Cindy. There may be multiple people in the sub two community, but I know that Shane and Cindy are in the sub two community with me. They asked me to come into this Zoom today because they know that my superpower is really underwriting when it comes to deals, whether that be cash, creative, fix and flip, hard money, whatever deal that you may have or that you may be dealing with. I have looked it over, a similar type of deal. I've underwrote it. I've underwrote it again. I've sent it out to people, underwrote it again, sent it out to more people, underwrote it again. And that's just the way that I operate because numbers make sense to me. And there's usually a way to take a look at the numbers and see if it really is a deal or not. But underwriting can be really scary for a lot of people where it shouldn't be. When it comes to underwriting, it really is. You shouldn't be trying to force a square peg into a triangle, spot, like a triangle. What is it? A circular block into a triangle slot. It doesn't make sense, right? If the numbers don't make sense, the numbers don't make sense. But it's really equipping yourself to understand, how do I look at the numbers to see if they make sense? So that's what my goal today is, to help you understand how I go about doing it, and why I go about doing it the way that I do. I'm hoping to get, taking a look at cash deals, creative deals, and wrap deals for the first 30 minutes. And then I'll open it up to Q&A at the end, so anyone can ask questions that they may have, and we can kind of go from there. So I will go ahead and take over and start sharing my screen here in just a second. And I'm going to pull up my personal spreadsheet that I created and that I have shared with other members of the sub 2 community. And it's a spreadsheet that I created with the idea that underwriting doesn't need to be scary. And I wanted to make it as plug and play as possible for people who maybe don't feel comfortable doing it. So,
and the basic level, Travis, can you explain what is underwriting and the overall process?
Yeah. So underwriting, what it is if you have a deal or somebody has a deal, as an underwriter, or when you're underwriting, you're taking a look at the numbers related to the deal, the purchase price, the monthly payments, the capital expenditures, the renovations that are needed to be done. You're taking a look at the liabilities versus the revenue, right? You're taking a look at what you are going to need to pay, and you're going to take a look at what you're going to make, and you're taking a look to see if it makes sense. And making sense is different for everybody, but there are general rules of thumb. Main general rule of thumb is, if you're not beating inflation when it comes to a percentage, it's not a good deal. Because if you're not going to beat inflation, you're losing money. So it doesn't make sense for you to do that deal. Another rule of thumb, if it's not making money, it's not a good deal. It's not a deal. But if it is beating inflation and it's not losing money, then it's the secondary aspect per investor. Is it making enough money for it to make sense to you?
And again, the reason we do all that stuff is to make sure we're not just shooting from the hip and buying a property because we love it. This isn't buying your home. This is buying an investment property. It's got to make sense.
And I also work in the stock market, so that helps me when it comes to understanding this. When you're a real estate investor, the real estate is the adjective, investor is the noun. You are an investor first. And when you are an investor, you have to make sure that you are taking a risk analysis approach. You are analyzing the risk that you are putting with your or your partner's money to see if it makes sense. If it is an educated risk, more often than not, you will not fail. But if you're just going blind, you'll fail 90% of the time because you don't know. Okay.
So, and again, Travis is being very, what's the word I'm looking for? But when he says this is a superpower, he has many, many superpowers. This is just one of his specialty superpowers. So,
and more or less what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep it more or less surface level, because underwriting, you can go super, super deep into the weeds. because numbers can go super deep into the weeds. Mortgages can go super deep into the weeds. Repairs, renovations, CapEx can go super deep in the weeds. What my goal is for all of you here today is to walk away and feel comfortable being able to look at a set of numbers and say, okay, I feel like I can underwrite this. That's my goal for you.
I'll let you get after it. I'll save my questions for later, and I'm sure other people have questions as well.
Okay, awesome. So I have pulled up my personal spreadsheet for everyone to take a look at. Now, for the people who are here, I have shared this with only the sub-2 community as of now. The people who are here, I'm happy to share this with Shane and Cindy so they can share it with all of you. How this spreadsheet is more or less set up is for creative deals, mostly. It's breaking down what the numbers are on the very baseline, mortgage, entry fee, position, second position, seller financing, whatever the case may be. And then plugging and playing the information that you can find very easily online and seeing what is the return that you have based on numbers, based on cash percentage, and based on if you're going to bring in a private money lender. Okay. It's very easy, very straightforward for this one, and I'll explain it in just a second. I'm not going to go into this, but I'll just touch on this. This is what's referred to as a Morby method. If you don't know what it is already, that involves you going to get a bank loan and then a seller carrying back a second position note. That can get really complicated, and it's not more or less meant for people who are newer to the industry, because you need credibility, you need someone who can sponsor your loan, you need connections, you need a network. It's not very intuitive for a beginner. And then there's subtail, or fix and flip is what I like to call it, where you're basically taking a look at, does the number make sense for a cash deal or for a really quick flip? Okay. So I'll just kind of start off at the very beginning, and I'll pull up a notepad here, and I will talk about cash, talk about creative, and talk about wraps. Okay. So for a cash deals are probably the easiest thing to underwrite. Okay. And a cash deal is super easy to underwrite because you only have so many pieces of information that you need. Okay. You need to know what the ARV is. I'll show you how to find the ARV. You need to be able to estimate the repairs. Now, you may not know how to estimate the repairs. I'll give you a general rule of thumb about that. And you need to know how long it's going to take for you to hold the property. That includes repairing a property and listing a property. How long are the listings taking to sell? Because during that whole time, somebody's going to have to pay money for it. Okay. And then you need to be able to find the profit. Because once you are able to find the ARV, you're able to estimate the repairs, and you're able to take a look at what the general holding time is, you can find out if you have a deal come to you, or you're sourcing a deal, or whatever the case may be, somebody has an asking price. You're able to find out what the profit is going to be for that deal. Okay. So I'm going to pull up Privy here because I don't have a specific cash deal that I can show you guys. So I'll just find one. Okay. Privy is something that I use, personally speaking. You can use Zillow. You can use Redfin. You can use really anything that will be able to show you an ARV. So in the chat section, somebody throw out a zip code in like a major city somewhere, like, I don't know, Florida, Arizona, Texas, something like that. Zip code, city, doesn't matter. I'll look up a property in that place, and we will kind of go from there. And Shane, if you have one, you can shoot one out to me as well.
Yeah.
Right, so Loveland, Colorado. I already got one.
Thanks, Sandra.
Okay, Loveland, Colorado. So we'll take a look at Loveland, see what's going on here. Okay, so let's just find a property. Okay, say for example, this property right here. This looks like something that could definitely be fixed up, right? It's not in terrible condition, but it looks like it could be fixed up. We know that they want 280, we'll call it. They want 280 for the property. Okay. So I know it's asking 280. So there's a couple of other things that I need to find. I need to find the ARV. I need to find the estimated hold time, and I need to find the estimated repairs. Okay. I will start off with the ARV. Okay. ARV is very, very simple. You take a look at the house. 1 bed, 1 bath, 672 square foot. Okay. That's a small house, and they're asking 280 for it. So what we'll take a look at is okay, is there anything in the vicinity that is sold relatively close to that? Okay. We have 2 properties. We have a 232 and we have a 405. Okay. So I'm going to take a look at this 405 because this looks like a higher priced house. So this is a 2 bed, 1 bath, 694 square foot. Okay. Let's take a look at the work that has been done to it. And I'm using Privy on this. Privy, if you guys are doing cash deals, Privy is definitely a tool that you're going to want to have in your tool belt. Okay. It makes the process super simple for you. But looking at this house, yep, go ahead, Shane.
And we looked at Privy once or twice on the show, but I need to come back and do another whole show on Privy and how to find deals. So
For sure.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show and a whole other set of questions. So, but we need to find some deals again so we can have more things to underwrite and follow your lead.
Yep. And so super quick, obviously you can go into the weeds with this, but I'm looking at very quickly. Hey, could this be a deal? Okay. So looking at the pictures here, this looks like a flip to me, right? They've redone the bathroom. They did the floors. It looks nice. They repainted everything, new exterior, gazebo. It's really nice. It's a really nice, cute house. So I'm going to call it staged really well. And it looks really nice. So I'm going to call the ARV on this 405. Okay. So what that tells me is I have $125,000 of a spread here because I take 405 minus 280. That could be great. But what do I also know? This property has been sitting on the market. So it's not selling. So it doesn't look like a deal to a ton of investors in the market. Why is that? Now I'm going to figure out how much I'm going to need to do to replace it. So when it comes to repairs, I will give you guys a general rule of thumb when it comes to repairs. This is not set in stone. It's different in every market. But generally speaking, there's 4 different types of rehabs that you're going to do. There's going to be lipstick. There's going to be basic. There's going to be gut. There's going to be a teardown. Okay. So for a lipstick remodel, what I mean by that is I'm going in, I'm painting, maybe updating the floors just a little bit, but I'm not doing any major repairs. I'm not replacing, I'm maybe doing appliances, but I'm not doing a lot. I'm not changing anything structurally. I'm not tearing down walls. I'm not doing any of that. Okay. And generally speaking, lipstick remodels is about $20 per square foot. Could be more, could be less, but this is a safe rule of thumb that I like to use. And I've been able to get deals sold like this. Basic rehab. That's where you're going in. You're not tearing down anything structurally, but you are updating a lot of stuff. You're maybe tearing out all the floors in the house and putting down laminate vinyl paneling. You're putting in new appliances. You're updating a bathroom. You're updating the kitchen. Basic rehab. Okay, that's generally $40 per square foot. A gut job is where you are taking down everything in the house, but you're leaving the structure up. The bones are good on the house, but everything else has to go. You have to do it all over again. Okay, tearing down walls a little bit. That's generally $60 per square foot. And a tear down, for the pricing of everything, and that's where you're tearing it down, leveling everything, and basically developing a new property, right? I used to say it was about $80 per square foot, but with the cost of everything and the margins that people want, I'd say it's safer to go $90 per square foot if you're going to have to tear down the structure to account for demolition costs, account for the labor to do that, account for permits to do everything. $90 per square foot. Okay. So with this 20, 40, 60, 90. So now I'm just going to play comparison. Okay. I see this house. This definitely could use some work on the outside right here. Inside, it's not too terrible. Okay. Could use some updating here. I don't think I'm going to have to tear down anything too major. Okay. So what I would say is it's probably going to be $40 per square foot, but that's interior. Exterior, we have 5 different tranches. Basically painting, it's about $5,000, I'd say. If you're going to do exterior, like change the siding and all that kind of stuff, I would say about $15,000. And if you're going to do landscaping along with the siding and everything like that, I'd say 25,000. That's what you should estimate. Always better to overestimate than underestimate. Why? Because if you overestimate and you're wrong, you make less money. It costs you less, you make more money. You underestimate and you're wrong. Now you're over budget.
Travis, do you build an extra line item just for contingency costs?
Contingency costs.
Yeah.
So usually what I do is I'll find the rehab cost and I'll take it times 1.05.
Okay.
5% of variance. Because if you haven't done a fix and flip before, you will learn really quickly. You will go over budget all the time. I've never seen anybody go on budget with a fix and flip. But so with that being said, I'm taking a look on the outside. I'd say $40 per square foot on this house and about $15,000 for the exterior, right? I could go 25,000, but I'll say 15,000 just because I'm not trying to spend a lot of time on this. Okay. So with that being said, I have 672 square foot and I'll use my calculator. Bring it over here. 672 times 40 plus 15,000. Okay. And then I'll take this multiplied by 105, 43,000. And what I like to do that really does help me is I just estimate to the nearest 10,000. So I'll say $50,000 for repairs on this one. Okay. So that's $50,000 of repairs to get this where it needs to be to have the same caliber of sale as this house. $50,000 is what I'm going to need to put into it. So what do I have then? So if I have my repair cost is $50,000, I already know that 50, 330. It's not bad. 330 is not bad for pricing. So now that I figured out 280 plus 50 is 330. Now I want to figure out the hold time, right? A thing that a lot of people don't do with the cash deals, they don't factor in hold time. So on Privy, it's really nice because I can just see the hold time here. Days on market for this one was 39. So for the fixed up property, it was 39 days on market. That's a month. And then I'm going to take a look at this fixed up property here. Or rather, yep, I'm going to take a look at this fixed up property here. And pull this up. So I got 39 days on market. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to take a look at the purchase date, the sale date. Now, this one is not necessarily super great because its purchase date is like 2016 and the sale date is this. But it's safe to assume that in this market with a basic rehab, 3 to 4 months. Okay. So if I'm going to say 4 months plus an extra month for repairs, okay, that tells me 5 months. 5 months to get this sold. Okay. So the hold time is going to be 5 months. Super simple, super easy. So I found what I need to know now in order to craft my kind of what offer I'm going to make. Because I have the hold time, I have the estimated repairs, I have the asking price, and I have the ARV, right? So I'm going to really just touch over this really lightly for the hold time. Hold time is you got to take a look at baseline 330 is the purchase price, okay? Interest rates right now, you'd have to take a look at a hard money loan, but it's safe to assume 12 to 15% interest only. Okay. So times 1.5 divided by 12. That's how much somebody is going to have to pay per month to hold this property. Add that up.
Not including taxes and insurance.
Not including taxes and insurance, right? Not including taxes and insurance, not including utilities, all that kind of stuff. So usually what I would do for this is I would say, okay, I see it's here. I know it's Colorado. Colorado doesn't usually have high property taxes. 4750 is what I would call it. Where that's coming from is I know that utilities is usually about $100 to $200 per month. Taxes and insurance, all of that included, usually around $500 to $600 per month for everybody. Unless you live in Texas, but that's a different story. So I'd call it 47.5. Okay. So 47.5, 4750 times 5, boom, another $23,000 that most wholesalers will not think about for a buyer. Okay. So another $23,750. Okay. So my actual cost for this is going to be $280 plus 50 plus 23.75. And these is multiplied by 1,000, 353.75. That's all in projecting a 5-month fix. Okay. So then what you'll do is you'll take a look at the ARV, which is 405. And you'll take 405 times, you have to pay an agent commissions and you have to do seller concessions. That's usually about 8% of the overall selling price. 6% for agents, 2% for seller concessions. Okay. So I do times 0.92 to factor in an 8% off my overall profit. 372.60 minus 353.75. $18,000 for the hassle, for the headache, for fixing it up, 5 months on the time, $18,000. And what you'll do is you'll take a look at this 18,000 and you'll divide this by this number right here, which is the all-in, to see what their actual return on their money is, right? 353.75. That's a 5% return. So now you can start seeing why this property doesn't make sense and why it's still sitting on the market. Because people are saying 5% return, it's not enough for me. Most people who are fixing and flipping right now want at least 15% return. Okay. So let me tell you how to track back from that 15 to find that 15% return. Okay. So if you know that you are going to get 405 for this, you times that by 0.92. You know that after everything is said and done, the profit is going to be 372.6, right? Times 1,000, obviously that's 372,600. Okay. You know that the whole time probably going to be around 23,750. Okay. Call it that. That's how much money you have left. You know that the profit, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought and I apologize here. So you know that it's going to cost you $50,000 to do the repairs. So this is what you have to work with after everything is said and done. Keep track of this number, okay? 298,850. And I promise you, I'm not going to harp on this point too much longer. 298,850. That's what you're looking to work with. And if you know that somebody wants to make 15% return on their money, okay? So if this is the amount of money that they're getting back, what I do is I will just take times 0.15 here. You can do it of the overall purchase price. You can do it however you want to do it. But I would say that most people would want to make about $45,000 of a profit on this type of flip. Okay. So if you say 298,850 minus 45,000, what else do you also have to include? An assignment for yourself if you're not doing it. If you are wholesaling this deal out, you have to include an assignment for yourself as well. So say I want to make $15,000 on this deal. This is my max.
That's above and beyond your construction profit. You put a wholesaler fee on there for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Okay.
But if you're a wholesaler and you're not fixing it up yourself, you could you need to include your assignment fee. If you're not and you're just fixing and flipping and you're doing it yourself, you could go with this. So this is your maximum of allowable offer if you're fixing it up yourself. And if you're a wholesaler, this is your maximum allowable offer for a 15% return on the money. Okay. So when you're looking at that, I can only go in and offer about 240. I call it 235. So if I were going to make an offer on this, I would probably come in to the agent and say, hey, you're asking too much for this house. The best that I can do is 225. Why? Because I'm assuming that they're going to come back with a counter or they're going to say no. If they come back with a counter, now we can haggle up. But I don't want to go over my maximum allowable offer, which is about 240, 235. So I start lower, so I give myself room to negotiate up. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up for the people who I can see if that makes sense. Cool. Awesome. So now that's cash. And I will open it up to questions here in just a second, but I want to go over creative because creative deals can get really confusing and people don't factor in a lot of stuff with creative deals. So
that was just a simple cash
simple
deal,
cash
right?
deal.
So you just offering a price.
Exactly. Simple, super simple cash deal. And there's a ton of people who will have different equations and stuff like that, but that's how I do it. There's also like the 70% rule, 70% of ARV minus repairs and hold and closing costs. And that's your, thing right there. Some people say simply 50% of ARV. There's a ton of different rules to do it. You just got to find what's comfortable for you. This is what's comfortable to me. Okay. So with creative deals, the major thing that people don't factor in with creative deals is the entire entry fee. I feel like Cindy wanted me to touch on this. The entire entry fee, right? And so with this calculator, I factored in the entire entry fee that most people don't think about. Most people think about cash to seller, arrears, assignments, or agent fees, and they don't even put in a closing costs. They just say plus closing costs. Okay. They don't ever do the work that they need to see it. But they're also forgetting cost to repair it. If I'm going to hold it as a long-term rental, do I need to do anything to the property to get it rent ready? Holding cost. How long am I going to need to pay the mortgage, the utilities, the until I can get it rent ready, until I can get Airbnb up in there, or until I can do what I'm going to do with the property, until I can start making money from the property? How long am I going to have to come out of pocket to do that? And then marketing. If I'm paying an agent to list a house for me because it's a wrap, or if I'm paying an agent to list a rental for me, or if I'm going to put out bandit signs, whatever I'm going to do, that costs money. And cleaning the house, taking pictures of the house. These are all marketing costs. And these are things that people do not factor in when it comes to an entry fee. And these things can really change the overall outlook of a deal. I have a wrap deal that we just closed on, and we were holding on to it for 6 months. And we were paying a mortgage payment of $1,500 for 6 months, and we had the utilities on. So for the 6 months, we had about $1,800 of costs that we did not factor in when we initially got it. It's an extra $10,800 that I didn't factor in, and I made the mistake about that, and that we had to come out of pocket for. Right. So when you're looking at creative deals, you need to make sure you're factoring in that in. So pretty simply, once you figure out the entry fee, once you figure out cash to seller, arrears, cost of acquisition, assignment fees, whatever, closing costs, safe rule of thumb, 2% of the purchase price. Most times it's less, but overestimate. 2% of the purchase price is the closing cost amount. Renovation, holding costs, marketing. Once you have all of that, you add it together, and that comes into one lump sum. For this next example, I will say that my entry fee is $45,000. Okay. So if my entry fee is $45,000, we'll say that my monthly mortgage payment on the house, whatever, is $1,500 even. I'm keeping it simple numbers just because I don't have a specific deal to give to you guys right now. So let's say my PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance altogether is $1,500. Okay. My entry fee is $45,000. I figured that out. Now I have to look at the potential revenue on the property to see if it makes sense to me. Okay. So with a long-term rental, let's say that I can make $2,200 on it. With a midterm rental, travel nursing, I don't really want to go down that road because that can get really dicey. But we'll say like with a long-term rental, I can make $2,200 for it. Okay. Most people would say, hey, that's $700 of a spread. $700 per month over $45,000. Let's take a look at that. 700 times 12 divided by 45,000. And I've seen this happen all the time. People are like, it's 18% cash on cash return. No, it's not. Why? Because there's more costs associated with holding an investment property. Why is that? Because you have to make sure that you protect yourself, right? And what I mean by protecting yourself is you need to factor in for CapEx, reserves just in case something happens that's not a CapEx, but it's like a light fix. I don't know how to spell reserves. Forgive me. Vacancy, because you can't expect that the property is always going to be rented out. Say the person needs to leave or you need to evict them. Vacancy. And then most people have property managers. So you need to factor in for CapEx, reserve, vacancy, and property management. And that takes away from your profits. So most property managers for single family or small multifamily, about 8 to 10% is how much they charge of the gross rents. Vacancy is about 5%. Okay.
Some of that is market dependent, right? I mean,
it's market dependent. Realistically, it's 1 to 2 months of marketing for a new person to come in, right? 5%, 3%, it depends on the market, right? For my personal home market, it's 5% because we have a housing crisis. So there's never a problem getting a rental filled, right? But if you live in one of the places that don't have a large population, you may have a longer vacancy time, right? So you need to make sure that you know your market that you're investing into. Reserves, again, dependent on what you have, what you're working with. But for the most part, I usually say 5%. And then CapEx is really dependent on what you want to do, right? How much you want to put to the side for CapEx. But to keep it safe, I'll say 5 to 10%, right? So if this is 15% on the upper end, and this is 10%, this means 25% of my gross rents go towards putting it into the bank account in case something happens. Call it war chest, rainy day fund, whatever the case may be. So this 2,200 is not 2,200. This 2,200 is 0.75, 25% off of the total value, 1,650. So then you do 1,650 minus 1,500, $150 per month is what you're going to be cash flowing. Times 12, $1,800 at the end of the year, $45,000, 4% cash and cash return. You see how this can really start to add up if you don't know what to look for. This is why underwriting is super, super important, because you'll often come across deals that look great, or you'll often get sent deals that look great. This happens to me all the time. I'm sure it happens to Cindy. I'm sure it happens to Shane all the time. People are like, oh my gosh, $700 cash flow, $700 of cash flow in this property. Take a deeper look at it. No, it's not. It's $150 of cash flow per month, right? And then that's where it comes into investor appetite. Some people would kill for a 4% cash on cash return. They're like, that's great for me. I'm fine with that, because inflation currently right now is sitting right around 5%, 4%. This is just at inflation right now. So if they park their money into this, maybe they're not losing money to inflation. Their money's just growing and the asset appreciates, or whatever the case may be. I'm not in that state. I need to be at least 12% cash on cash return, because I could lend out my money to somebody else for 12% and make more money. So it needs to make more sense for me to buy the asset than to lend out my money. That's why it's different for everybody. So that's what I would say for this. Now, when it comes to wraps, I know Cindy wanted me to talk on wraps. Okay. Say you figure out that this
Travis,
doesn't
can you
work.
just explain real quick what a wrap is for everybody?
Yeah. So
Please?
I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so you guys can see my face. Okay. So a wrap, okay. I don't know how many of you own your own house, but you have a mortgage on your house. Okay. This is your first position mortgage. Okay. Because there's different positions on a house. This is your first position mortgage. If you are wrapping a house, it's exactly how it sounds. You are taking that mortgage and you're making a new mortgage and wrapping it around the existing mortgage. I'll give you examples. Say I have $150,000 on my mortgage. It's at 4%. Okay. And then I sell the house to somebody else and I create a new mortgage that is $250,000 at 6%. What did I do? I increased the principal amount and I increased the interest rate. And what does that mean? It means that the $250,000 of that, $100,000 is something that I made up, and the 150 is from the existing mortgage. That's what a wrap is. You're just creating a new note that's inclusive of the old note. If you're a real estate professional or something, you may know it as an all-inclusive deed of trust. That's the same thing. If you look it up on Bankrate, it's called a wraparound mortgage. It's really simple once you understand exactly what it is. But that's what it is, to answer your question, Shane.
Thank you.
Yes, for sure. So if you are going to wrap a house, and I'll try and keep this quick so I can open it up to questions. But if you're going to wrap a house, okay, say for example, we'll use the same house, okay? For example, the PITI is $1,500. Say we're in Texas, and the taxes and insurance of this is $800. So T&I is $800, which would mean that my principal and interest, which is the principal amount and the interest rate, equal out to be, I can do math, $700. Okay. So say, for example, this doesn't make sense as a long-term rental, but as a wrap, it can make sense because say the rental rates are at $2,200 a month. So if the rental rates are at $2,200 a month, and say the ARV on this phantom house here is, I don't know, worth $400,000. It's in good condition, it's rent ready. I don't want to hold on to it, but I could wrap it out and potentially ask for 12 to 15% down. Because if I'm all into this for $45,000, maybe I want to turn that $45,000 and get it back within 3-4 months. Okay. So if I know the purchase price or the ARV is $400,000 and say my underlying note is $250,000. Okay. That means I could go sell it for $400,000, create $150,000 of equity, positive equity for myself by selling it at $400,000. Okay. And say this interest rate is at, I don't know, 3.75%. And I want to sell it at 6.75. I want to create set 3% of interest for myself that I'm going to gain. Okay. What does that look like? It can look a lot of different ways, but I'll just make it super simple for you. Okay. I will put it in here, 250,000. We will make this, I don't know, 45,000, just to keep it super simple and easy, because I don't want to confuse anyone and I want to open this up to questions. Okay, so entry fee, $45,000. My monthly P&I, do $700. Taxes and insurance will make this $800. Okay. When I wrap it out, the really nice thing about a wrap is that taxes and insurance are no longer your responsibility because you're selling the house to another individual. And when you sell the house to another individual, insurance for the house is not your responsibility anymore. And taxes for the house are the responsibility of the homeowner. Okay. So 250,000 is remaining on the mortgage. Okay. I want to wrap it out. I want to sell it for $400,000. And you guys will have access to this, Say I want to get 15% down. That's $60,000 that I could ask somebody to put as a down payment on the note. And I want to do 6.75%. So my monthly P&I would be $2,205, right? With wraps, you don't really want to be that high above the rental rate because most people won't buy it, right? You want to be relatively close to the rental rate. So usually what I do is I take a look at extending the amortization out a little bit. Yeah, that saved me $200. Maybe I am okay with coming down on the purchase price just a little bit because I like having a higher interest rate. Okay, so maybe I say $375. Am I still getting enough to cover my entry fee, $45,000? Yes. Yes, I am. Am I still getting the interest rate I like? Yes. Yes, I am. Okay, great. So now I look at this, $2,700. Maybe it's not too bad. Maybe I want to try it out. So then what I see is my P&I right here is $1,923. The P&I on the mortgage underneath is $700. So what does that mean my cash flow is going to be? $1,223.20. So a wrap can work even when a long-term rental doesn't, because I'm making a profit of $16,000 upfront. I paid, oh, that's 11,000. My bad. Yes, I'm making a profit of 11,000. 45,000 entry fee, 56,000 I'm getting back. 11,000 upfront. During the life of the loan, I'm making $1,200 of monthly cash flow. Okay. And then from the underlying note to my note, if I received 56.25 from 375 minus 56.25, 318, I have 250 on the underlying note, and I still have $68,000 of built-in equity in the deal. So wraps are hard, but a wrap could work for a deal where a long-term rental does not. And I don't know if I did a sufficient job explaining that, Cindy, but a wrap can work in a deal where a long-term rental does not, because you're no longer liable for taxes, you're not liable for insurance, you're not liable for property management, and you're not liable for CapEx or reserves or vacancy. All of these expenses are no longer on your plate. So if you can take those expenses off and you can cash flow, that can work. And I know Kevin Cho in Sub 2 does a lot of these deals where they have not a lot of equity and they don't cash flow as long-term rentals, but he's making a ton of money off of wrapping them out to homestead buyers.
Yeah.
Wraps give you another exit strategy that
Yeah.
not everybody thinks of. And again, a few years ago, not that long ago, nobody's really talking about wraps. But because of the interest rate changes, there's a lot of houses out there with lower interest rates locked on the mortgage. If you get those subject to, now you have this interesting little strategy that really works well in this market.
It's I can personally attest, I do wraps. And the reason that I do wraps is because interest rates in this market are about 6.9 to 7.9, maybe 8s for
I think
interest
they're
rates.
8 now.
Yeah,
It's crazy. I
people
think they're
who wanna-
around 8 now.
Exactly. For people who want to buy houses. But you see the wrap example I just gave you, I had a 6.75% interest rate, right? That is appealing to someone. That is appealing to someone who wants to live in the house, because who's the one person that doesn't care how much a property cash flows? someone who is living in it, someone who
Right.
owns it. They don't care. I don't know how many of you actually own your own house, but if it's a house that you feel comfortable in, it's your dream home and you can afford to pay it, you don't care because you can afford to pay it. You make enough money to make your bills at the end of the month and it's your dream home. You don't care if it's cash flowing or not because it doesn't matter. So wraps are great. Wraps are really great and you can get really competitive with them, but they are hard to do.
Yeah. Well,
When you
a
say
lot of
hard to
animals.
do, is it hard to negotiate or the paperwork's hard? What do you mean by
So it's hard to do in the sense of you need to make sure that you are actively marketing it and you are actively having conversations with people because everything with a wrap is a negotiation. Because most of these people have never, maybe they've never bought a house before because they can't qualify for it or because they have a 1099 job or maybe
Mhm.
their credit score is bad. They haven't been able to buy a house before. So they're going to have a lot of questions about how it works or what to do. This is where you talk with Shane and talk with Cindy because they have the resources to help you do what you need to do for those kinds of deals. But also the negotiation aspect, because sometimes you could be asking someone to give you $56,000 down. If they come in and they say, hey, I only have $45,000, that's now up for you to decide. Are you okay with just covering your fee, like covering your investment, but still cash flowing a lot per month? Or do you want some money up front? Because everybody's in a different situation.
Mhm.
So you have to be able to negotiate and be able to take a look at the numbers and see how does it look if the numbers change, like if the interest rate changes, if the purchase price changes, if the down payment changes. And that's why I created this calculator, because once you figure all that out, really easy to plug and play. Someone says they
Mhm.
want to do $50,000 down and they want a 6% interest rate. Does it make sense? Are you still making a lot of money? Can you get the non-cash flowing house off your hands into someone else and start cash flowing a ton? Plug and play. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Let's do it. Let's lock it up under contract. Super simple, super easy.
Awesome. Good stuff, Travis. Good stuff.
Anybody have a question on wraps while we're still on it with Travis?
Does anyone have a question in general? I'm sorry, I've been talking a ton and I'd love to answer your guys' questions.
Does anyone have a deal they need underwritten? Use Travis.
I
Use
can
his
help
brain.
you.
I have. But I love it. My brain got wrapped.
And this is a lot of content to digest up front because numbers are not everyone's best friend. Not everyone likes looking at numbers.
That's
But
me.
really what you want to do, there's a couple of things that you want to really pay attention to, okay? When it comes to underwriting, right? How much is it going to cost you? That's really what's important. How much is it going to cost you, whether it be a wrap, whether it be a creative deal, whether it be a cash deal? How much is it going to cost the person who is buying it if you're not? Okay. How much does it cost you? And then how much can you make from it? If the cost, if how much you're making is not enough to justify the cost for you,
Mhm.
it's not a good deal. Because I have seen plenty of times, maybe a deal doesn't work for me personally, but there is someone who will buy that deal because they maybe have a different exit strategy that I don't know of. Maybe they're local to it and they can cut costs or expenses, right? And for them, the deal makes a ton of sense, but for me, it doesn't. And I've had it where a deal makes sense to me because I have something I can do with it, but it doesn't make sense for somebody else. That's all it is when it comes to being an investor. You have your investment portfolio, you have your investment appetite, what you're okay with taking on as an investor. And it changes. It changes all the time. I had an investment appetite, then I talked with Cindy and Shane, and my investment appetite changed a little bit because they told me something that I took that and I applied it and I said, oh, that makes a ton of sense. And then you start changing and you grow to make better
Mhm.
decisions.
Travis, Cindy Greenwood has a question.
Yeah.
Maybe we can bring her up on stage. Let's see if I can find. Cindy, can you unmute for us at least?
Yeah, I think I did.
There you go. We hear you now.
Okay, Cindy. So you
Awesome.
said you have a flip property you're purchasing right now?
Yeah, I'm actually an escrow on a property. So I'm the end buyer, basically. And they bought the property back in December of 2021 for $200,000, and I found the old listing.
Okay.
And so I've seen what they've done as far as the work has been done. But I also just had my inspection, and there's a lot of things wrong.
Oh.
So, yeah. So I'm actually purchasing it using a USDA with an $8,000 seller credit at asking price, which was $285. But I need to come down, and I'm wondering what I should be offering to basically not be completely rude to the flippers,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Well, so the real question is this one that you're going to be living in?
Yes,
Okay. Are you going to be doing the work yourself?
more than likely, yes.
Okay.
Maybe not except for the roof being on the garage, but everything else is fixable by us.
So is that $8,000 seller credit going to paying your closing costs, or is that going in your pocket?
Closing costs.
Okay. So on the this can get a little bit breathy, but on the inspection report, what just listed off what needs to get done, like major ticket items?
Well, there's a bathroom that they remodeled.
Mm-hmm.
They actually added a shower. It's a beautiful shower enclosure, tile and everything, and it's leaking. It's leaking above it, which is on the roof or on the sheetrock, and even the fixture, the shower head, which wasn't a big deal, but since they moved the sink from that area to the side, now it doesn't have the clearance for the sink, the 21 inches that you're supposed to have between the toilet and the sink, and then the sink and the wall. So now I might have to also remove the sink.
Okay, so you're going to need to redo the bathroom, which probably is going to cost you $15,000.
That's what I was thinking.
So your question was to back test it and see what you should have bought it for if you were the flippers, or what's your question?
Technically, I mean, so I don't want to offer, like, if I come back to them and say I want to pay $250. You know, I don't want to be rude about it. So I'm trying to make them be able to have a good percentage on their flip.
Okay.
So that they would say yes, okay.
Okay, so they bought it for $200,000, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they bought it for $200,000. They're giving a seller, and they're selling it for $285, right? I got that right?
$285 with the $8,000 credit.
Okay, so they're taking off $8,000 right off the top. Actually, no, they're not. So that's a flat amount. So they're paying a percentage based off of that. So they're paying. Do you have a realtor that you're working with?
Yes.
Okay. Was it 3%, 6% listing?
Well, they're basically paying all my closing costs, because I think the numbers came up to $73.25.
Okay, so we'll say that they baseline they have 94% of that 285, and they're paying $8,000. Okay. I don't know how much work they did to the property, but
well, the old listing does exist. So
yes.
I don't know if you want to look at it, because you could probably figure it out.
What's the address?
4021.
Put it in the chat.
Send them a private message there.
Yeah. Because also you're moving into that. So yeah, you maybe don't want to tell everybody.
This will
that
end up
one.
on YouTube and we don't want it out there, so.
Oh, is it on YouTube? I didn't know that.
Yeah, we
Oh, it will
record
be.
everything and put it, yeah, it will be.
You can edit it.
But yeah, just send me a private message. You know how to do that on Zoom?
I'm working on it. Where is it? Yeah, because you're the host, so I can easily do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said,
Hey, Travis, while she's doing that private messaging, how do people get in touch with you? How do they partner with you? How do they JV with you? How do we get in touch with Travis Banks?
Yeah, so you guys can my on my photo or my video right now is my Instagram or Facebook Messenger. I'm in the creative university that Shane and Cindy have made for you guys. It's a great group that you guys should definitely be leveraging more often. But I'm in that group as well. So send me a message on Instagram, a DM, or send me a message on Facebook and bring me your problems. I promise you, I'm not the type of person who I'm looking to take your deal. I'm really not. If you need someone who can vouch for me, Shane and Cindy both can. I'm not the guy who's going to take your deal. I want to help you succeed. I want to help you grow. And if you do that, my only expectation is that you come back and you give credit to Cindy and Shane and to me for giving you the help that you needed.
Yes.
That's the expectation from me, because I don't need your deal. Shane doesn't need your deal. Cindy doesn't need your deal. We're good. But we want to help you succeed because we know where you have been, and we've been in the shoes that you've been in as well. So reach out to me on Facebook, reach out to me on Instagram, and I'm more than happy to help you out. I do have the house here. I'm not going to share my screen because I don't want to compromise your location. It is a cute little house, 1,300 square foot. Looks like they just did a basic rehab on it. So $40 per square foot.
52.
Yeah, $40 per square foot. 130.74. Okay, so they spent about, so realistically, on the flip that they have right now, with them giving you 8,000 seller credit, they're more or less breaking even on the house already. Because if they
think so?
if they bought it for 200,000, they put about 55,000 into it. And once everything is said and done, so that's 255. Once everything is said and done, they're probably going to be walking away with about 259. They have about $4,000 of profit that they're making. Now, it's also not your fault if they did a flip and they didn't do a good job. Okay?
Yeah.
Right.
That's not your fault.
Well, a lot of the even the appliances and almost everything is used. The mini splits are used. I mean, when our inspection happened, they opened up the mini split and it was still dirty.
But what it sounds like is they bought this in 2021. So they bought this shortly before the market dropped off in March of last year.
Right.
So it's not your fault that they didn't get it low enough and they didn't do their underwriting correctly. Because if they had gotten this at 150, right, and they put $60,000 worth of work into it to make sure that it got done right, they'd be at 210 and they'd be selling it to you at 285, and they would be giving you a seller credit, and then they would be making like what is this, 49,000 bucks. That's how much they would be making if they did their underwriting correctly. But they didn't.
Right.
They didn't do that. That's not your fault. And the thing about it is, one thing that I think all of you can take away from this is sellers don't determine the price of a house. The buyer does. Who is going to buy the house determines what price they're going to buy it at. A seller only has an asking price. That's what they're asking. It's quite literally, hey, will you pay this for my house? And you as a buyer, you can put in an offer. You can either meet their asking price or you can put in a lower bid. And that's what it is. If they sell it to you, you determine the price of what they sold it at. They did not. And if you meet them at their asking price, you determined that you would meet them at their asking price. So buyer determines the price, seller does not.
That's
Right,
a
and that's why I
gem.
was kind
Everybody-
of wondering
Go ahead, Cindy.
because of the inspection, you know, and all the fixes and, you know, the electrical and there's a bunch of other stuff too that hasn't been done.
Here's what I would say. Okay. I'm not an investment advisor and I can't tell you what to do, especially since it's going to be your own personal house. Okay. But an inspection report is a really, really, really useful thing to come back to negotiations with, because it's not like you're making up what's on that inspection report. That's a valid piece. That's a valid document that is documenting what is wrong and what they didn't do right. That's really what it is. It's what they didn't do right because they were supposed to be fixing it up and getting it ready. Ideally, with a fix and flip, when an inspection report comes back, the things that needed to be taken care of should have been taken care of. They did not do that. That's not your fault. And you have to live in that house.
Right.
At the end of the
I
day.
feel like it's a good investor learning experience as well, because me personally, if I were going to fix and flip a house, I would probably spend the $400 to get the inspection prior
Right.
to even putting it on the market.
Right.
You got to make sure that, and that also boils down to making sure you have a good general contracting team, making sure that you are properly maintaining the project as it's going on, because the longer a project goes on, the more things that can happen and more things that can break. Like, you know, that's all part of that process. But what I'll say to you, Cindy, is you are going to live in the house. Okay. As an investor, I would not be paying more. Either they're going to fix it. Like you can say, hey, you fix these things and then I will meet you at your price, or you have to drop it for me to go and fix it so I can afford to go and fix it. And that's usually what happens. Like with an inspection report, when it comes back, hey, fix these items and then we can move forward, or don't fix these items and we got to drop the price. And that $8,000, you know, that's towards your closing costs. You know, you can also use it to buy down your rate. Like there's a ton of different things you can do with that, but I'm not your investment advisor. You should talk to your realtor about what you should do with that.
I was going to go with a 2-1 buy down, but my lender actually said, why don't you just go lower on the price, because overall the percentage and the money and all that stuff just equals out better if you just say go 10K less versus a 2-1 buy down.
That is 100% true, because there's less principal gaining interest on a mortgage note if you have them lower the purchase price. But all that being said, talk with your realtor. I don't think you're wrong in coming in to offer lower, especially if $40,000 or $35,000 is how much work needs to get done to the house.
No, you hit that on the money.
Does anyone else have any questions? I know we might be going a little bit over, but I don't mind. I want to help you guys. I want to make sure that you guys feel comfortable. Anyone have any questions about what I have talked about?
Well, one of the
Anything
things I do want to say, Travis, and I you and Cindy were going at it, I just chomping at the bit trying to say it when you said it. But when you get to the point where you understand that you're the buyer, as an investor, you set the price, not the seller.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at that and pair that with your superpower of underwriting, right? You go through and run the numbers, not sometimes the number that works for you is close to what the asking price is. Sometimes it's not. But when you understand that you're the buyer, you set the price. To me, that's where the game begins, right? I really, you do your underwriting right. You know your numbers. You know where you stand is solid. Start negotiating. Say, well, this is what it's worth to me.
Yeah.
Or what are you going to do for me?
And the thing about it is, I'll give you two pieces of knowledge that I want to impart on all of you. And then if no one has other questions, we can go about our days. I'll put it to you like this. if you do your underwriting correctly and you do it soundly, even if they come back and tell you, hey, that's a lowball offer, explain it. Well, I'm looking at this, and this. Can you provide me any information that's contrary to what I'm seeing? Yes or no? Because maybe they can provide you, hey, here's a general contractor who will do the work. I have a quote from them. They'll do the work, $15,000 under the price. You had no idea that you could have done that, but now you can, right? Once your underwriting is solid, you can use it as a negotiating tool. 100%. I do it all the time. I do it all the time for creative deals, especially. Like, I explain it, because most people who are who I can get a creative deal from, most sellers who do that, they're not investors. Like, they don't understand how an investor looks at a deal. So if I explain it to them, they start to see. If I explain to them, hey, would you like put your money into something to get 1% interest back? No, I probably wouldn't. Exactly. That's why I wouldn't do it. So let's work out something else that maybe makes a little bit more sense for me to do this. Secondly, to Shane's point, I don't know how many of you guys have shopped around at different supermarkets or different gas stations because you didn't like the price of something, right? It's the same thing with houses, right? If you don't like the price of a house, you're not going to just go buy it because, right? Say you have like 5 gas stations around you. One of them is charging $4 for gas. One of them is charging $5. One of them is charging $3.50. One of them is charging $3.25. And one of them is charging $2, right? Are you going to go to the $4 per gallon because it's slightly closer to you or slightly more convenient? No, most people would drive that little bit extra mile to go get the $2 gas because in the long run, it's more beneficial to you. It's the same thing when it comes to deals. You will come across enough deals that you will find a good one. If you underwrite it correctly and you get it with the terms that you need it to make sense, it's going to be a lot better for you in the long run than just caving in and giving the seller who is unreasonable with their asking price what they're asking for. Same concept. I just came up with that analogy, but I think it works really well.
It works very well. I had an investor friend a long time ago. Her name was Jill, and her take on underwriting was, if you go through the time and energy and effort to underwrite, always present an offer. Right? If they're asking $350 for the house and you come back and say, boy, the best I have is $280, they'll never take it. You don't know that until you present the offer.
Yeah.
If your underwriting's solid and you put in the time to do it, present the offer and say, this is what it is for me. It's sometimes they tell you to go pound sand, and that's okay too, right? But every once in a while you might get that, well, what about, and then negotiations begin.
And then the thing about that is you can always give an upfront contract as well. Like, if you know that they're asking too much for it, like, you can do what you normally do, like talk with the agent, the seller, whoever it is, get a little bit more information about the property and set an upfront contract. Hey, I'm going to go underwrite this. I'm pretty positive I'm going to come in a lot lower than where you think. Do you still want me to give you the offer? Because they'll tell you, yeah, my seller's open to anything. Just bring the offer. Boom, go underwrite it and bring the offer. Like, and then if the agent gets mad at you, hey, I had this conversation with you before. You said bring my offer, and I told you it was going to be lower. Right. Now it puts it back on their court, right? Or they might tell you, hey, don't even bother putting in an offer. Don't bother putting in an offer then. Like, you don't need to waste your time on every deal.
Right. And then don't waste your time then going underwriting it if they're not going to take an offer. So, and underwriting can sometimes take hours.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes not. Sometimes you get good at it, and I'm sure Travis does 2 of them at once.
When I first started, most of my underwriting would take 30 minutes to an hour. And the reason for it is you don't know the markets. So you got to go find the markets. And I didn't really go into this. Hopefully Cindy and Shane bring me back on to talk about it, but I can go into how you can look at market research really in-depthly. But what I will say is, if you're going to underwrite for a creative deal, have at least 3 different websites supporting your rental rates. And if you're going to go underwrite for a cash deal, make sure that your ARV isn't a property that was either sold 12 months ago, or is significantly different than all the other houses that are selling, right? Because I've seen like areas where houses are selling for like 320, 350, and there's one house that sells for 500,000. People are like, that's my ARV. I'm like, no, you have 10 other houses that sold for 350. That's where people are buying.
But it makes my numbers work, Travis.
But it, like, if you're gonna buy it, are you confident you can sell it at 500? If you're gonna wholesale it, do you think your buyer's gonna buy that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, make sure that you're underwriting conservatively, because if you underwrite conservatively, last nugget I'll give before I let everybody go is, I believe in quality over quantity.
Mhm.
Because if you can get quality offers and quality deals done, you'll make a lot more money than just doing a ton of volume. Here's why. Because if you do a ton of volume, you're as likely to lose money as you are to make money. And what happens there, if you lose the same amount that you make, you break even. Whereas maybe you do like 5 quality deals in a year and you make 100,000. Net, you're up 100,000 opposed to someone who did like 5 deals every month.
Travis, I have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
It's going to take us a little off topic, but the first question I always like to ask of all of our hosts is, what can we, Cindy and I, and what can we, our community, do to support you?
Bring me deals to help you underwrite, right? Bring me deals to help you underwrite. Don't just bring me deals to underwrite for you, because I'm not your underwriter. I respect all of you, but respect my time as well. I'm not your underwriter. I have my own deals that I'm underwriting, but I'm very happy to help you learn how to underwrite for yourself. Secondly, once you feel confident with the underwriting, give me a shout out. Let people know that I helped you in some way. Or even after this Zoom, let's put in the creative university group what you learned, something that you took away from this Zoom. That'd be very helpful for me to kind of see what you guys are taking away, because I ramble a lot. So it'd be helpful for me to kind of see what you guys are taking away from this.
Hey, Travis, I know your partner, Holly, right?
Yep.
Holly. She's in Reen, right? Reen. Isn't she in Reen? Isn't she in Reen?
Reen? I don't know what
Yeah,
Reen
the
is.
women's real estate.
Oh, yes.
investor-
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
Yes. So a lot of these women here that are on this Zoom with us are from Reen as well. So Travis's partner is Holly, it's Holly Hayhurst, right?
Yes, Holly Hayhurst. Give her a
Yes.
shout out too.
Yeah.
If you're in
Holly-
Reen,
Yes. Holly
Flood-
and Travis are like this, and she's in Reen, ladies.
shoot her a message and
Mhm.
tell her Travis sent me. How can I help you?
Yes.
That's how
Yeah.
you can help me.
Yeah.
Flood Holly's messages, because she loves that. She loves getting messages from people, especially women, to see how she can help you guys level up and step up, because it's really easy in our industry to just, oh, a man told me that this is what I need to do. But my business partner, the people who I work with mostly are women, because women are smarter than men. I'm sorry, I had to say it, Shane. Hope you don't take offense, but
I know
you guys are smarter than us, right? So I believe
Absolutely.
you need to get around people who are smarter than you. So my business partner, the person who I do all my business with, is a woman, a mom of 3 kids. She's awesome.
Mhm.
So shoot
Yeah,
her a message.
Yeah, yep, she's in Reen too. So, yep, and I'm in Reen. So, and a lot of the ladies on tonight, the women on tonight are from Reen too. So, yeah, so all of our worlds are colliding, the sub 2 and the Reen community.
I love to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other questions for me? Shane, Cindy, anyone?
I'm good, my friend. I'm so happy you're able to come on, and I'll be bothering you again shortly to get on another Zoom. I'm gonna let you pick the topic, my friend, though.
I would love to do an in-depth dive on Privy. I would love to do an in-depth dive on really underwriting creative deals, and I'd love to do a really in-depth underwriting on rap. how to find
Okay.
what's a good wrap deal.
So can we make a series of it then?
Absolutely. I'd love it.
I
Okay,
would love it. Yep. That sounds great.
So
'Cause
let's
I would
make-
want
let's-
to do a privy show, so that would be a great way to pull it all together.
yes.
Thank you.
So I'll text you a couple dates and the
Okay.
next one will be just privy. How to
Yes.
find deals and underwrite those deals. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks,
And-
guys.
And make sure you show Travis some love. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Travis.
I appreciate you.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
Cindy. Thanks, Travis.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you.